Hello, people that have me trapped within their phone or computer or other monitor. It is I, the Ninja Nick 333. We are back with another round of Japan's Champions League tournament. Looks like we have some sort of Arceus deck here on the left versus a Giratina deck on the right. A lot of people are on this Giratina, it seems, during this tournament. Looks like this may be Arceus Giratina because we do see a Grass and Psychic Energy as basic energies in the deck here for the Arceus deck. So, would not be surprised to see this as a Giratina mirror of some sort, whether the person on the right is also playing Arceus or if they are playing Lost Box with it instead is something that we still have to figure out. Looks like we are going Nest Ball for the Bieberol. For a long time in our standard format, we were playing the Bieberol line in order to, or we get the, did I call it Bieberol, or did I call it the Bidoof like it's supposed to be? Anyway, we Nest Ball for the Bidoof. We play that Bieberol line so we can draw until we have 5 cards in our hand. That also helps make sure that we don't just lose to things like Roxanne or Marnie later in the game. Looks like this will most likely be the Lost Box variation to where we have the Radiant Greninja here getting taken off the prize cards. Looks like this is another round 3 game, even though we just had a round 4 game, so the 2 pods must be off somewhat. Maybe they had to do a repair, or potentially maybe one just got delayed due to a long judge ruling. But either way, perfectly fine. We are going to be discarding a Water Energy with the Radiant Greninja in order to draw 2 cards from the top of our deck with concealed cards from the Radiant Greninja. We are going to use Colress's Experiment. We're going to be able to get a couple of cards in the Lost Zone, as well as putting a few more cards into our hand. As you might be able to see behind me, it did just light up the little supporter light to show that they have played a supporter, and they have 2 cards in the Lost Zone, which my big head blocked. You can tell this is from their secondary stream setup because you can see their prize cards on board, whereas the primary stream setup, they have the prize cam like we do at regionals. So looks like we are going to go for a Nest Ball. This will probably get a Comfey. You want to start flower selecting as soon as possible. Hopefully there is a switch card so you can move this Giratina to go into the Comfey, get that Comfey active to use the flower selecting. So I would like to say that the Arceus Giratina would be a little more favored, just because it gets going a little faster. It's less reliant on that Lost Zone. But of course the Arceus deck can't use the the V-Star power of the Giratina though. So it will really come down to how fast can this Lost Zone get built up. And with the loss of Scoop Up Net to Rotation, that was a D-block card. We no longer have that to be able to use our Comfeys in that way. Looks like we are going to go for the Abyss Seeking with the Giratina V. We're going to Lost Zone 2 of the top 4 cards of the deck and put the other 2 in our hand. Also, this is a new Bidoof. I'm not sure what set that is from. Maybe that is from Scarlet and Violet. I'm not familiar with it, so I'm not sure what that ability is, but you might as well play a Bidoof that has an ability if you have the option to. So it looks like we have an Ultra Ball here. We're going to be able to discard 2 cards, search your deck for any 1 card. That will most likely be the Arceus V-Star if we do not have that in hand already. Looks like that was immediately on the bottom of the deck, so we are going to grab that right out. We are discarding a Sharon's Care there. That's really great. This is one of the cards that can really swing this particular matchup if your Lost Box opponent is going to go in with something like a Cramorant. You can use Sharon's Care to pick up your Arceus V-Star, effectively healing all of the damage. And it looks like we are going to go for a Judge here as well, so... Oh boy, see, I just got some sleep, so I don't know why I'm still so tired. But we are going to use the Judge. We are going to grab some cards out of the deck here fresh, and we will still have our Starbirth to use after all of this. we even get the Ultra Ball, discarding 2 cards for the Bibarel. We are going to be able to draw it until we have 5 cards in our hand. Still not having to use the Star Birth yet. If you can avoid using the Star Birth for as long as possible, that is really best case scenario. Looks like the opponent is going to cut 1 card to the bottom of the deck. We are going to draw 5 with Beebs. And we are going to see, do we get the Giratinas to start setting those up? Looks like we do get 1 here. The only thing that is super important to note here is that Arceus is not going to be knocking out this Giratina V yet, unless this deck is playing something along the lines of Choice Belt and Galarian Zigzagoon, which you could search from the deck with the Star Birth, but I believe Galarian Zigzagoon may have been a D-block card, so that is likely rotated. And Choice Belt is not super good in this format where EX Pokemon are now a thing, because it does not work on those Pokemon. Only works on V Pokemon. So the less V Pokemon that you are likely to hit, the less good Choice Belt is. So we're most likely not really going to be seeing that from a lot of decks. I don't think we've seen it from a deck, period, so far, now that I'm thinking about it. So Starbirth, searching our deck for any 2 cards. Like those Aegislash sleeves, those are pretty cool. Fun fact, I do prefer Doublade over Aegislash. I think the shield takes away from it. It evolves from 1 sword to 2 swords to 1 sword with a shield, which doesn't make much sense to me. But then again, when do Pokemon evolutions make sense? Have you seen Remoraid? We're going to put 180 damage onto this Giratina, and you can see just how much time it takes to put down those damage markers there, as opposed to just putting dice down. If you just had like a 120 die or like a 100 die and a 80 die, you just slap those down real quick and you're done with it. That is why I do love those dice that come out of things like the Charizard UPC. We are going to see the Beach Court come down. That does reduce the retreat costs of basic Pokemon in play by 1. That will give Radiant Greninja and Comfey both free retreat. And the Giratinas will now have a 1 retreat cost instead of 2. We are going to see an Escape Rope that will likely switch into this Comfey here. Not really anything that this person on the left here wants to really put up, but I suppose we can afford to put the Giratina up. It's not super likely that we're going to be knocked out by a Giratina of the opponents this turn. They do have to get the V-Star and a couple more cards in the Lost Zone. So I suppose we are at 5 right now. Does this put us to 6? It's hard to tell. It looks like there's 4 in the Lost Zone, so I don't know if they put, since it says 5 there, I'm not sure if they put that up a turn early or not. It looks like they haven't updated, so that's just, they just put the 5 up early. So they're at 5 now. They would still need maybe something like a Colress's Experiment in order to get a fully charged up Giratina. And it looks like we are not quite there yet. We are just going to go for another Abyss Seeking with the same Giratina that has already been damaged. So as I said, because Scoop Up Net is no longer a card, this Giratina deck takes so much more to get going. You have to use Abyss Seeking once or twice in order to actually get cards into your Lost Zone. You cannot really rely on looping Comfeys as easily during the first couple turns of the game. And that really slows it down and make Arceus a lot better than it had been previously. Oh, it looks like we are at 7 now. So yeah, we were at 5, we lost Zone 2, that puts us at 7. So Arceus does get sped up quite a bit in this format due to the loss of the D-block cards. Looks like we top decked the Drapion, not super relevant in this matchup, not very good. However, you know, fun fact, you could always charge it up and attack with it. It can attack for 4 colorless energies. You could always slap down a double turbo, maybe charge it up with an Arceus V-Star. And if you really got to do it, you can. I have done it before in the past in my Arceus Flying Pikachu deck that I brought to a couple regionals, or maybe just one regional. You got to do what you got to do sometimes. Ultra Balling for another Arceus V-Star. We are going to use our Bibarel to draw until we have 5 cards in our hand. Looks like just 3 since we already have 2. We're going to have to see. A perfect thing to have right here would be a switching card, so that you could switch into the Arceus V-Star and use its attack a second time. Looks like we are just going to go for another Judge, the best disruption card currently in format, because Marnie is gone. We still have access to Roxanne, but Judge is the next best thing after Marnie. The turn player gets one less card, unfortunately. And the shuffle draw does get around things like the Oranguru. Does the Oranguru rotate? I want to say it does. I'm not 100% sure, though. I figure I would have seen it on stream at some point if it did not rotate. So it would really suck to have to retreat the Giratina, so maybe at the very least you can just attach an energy from hand and attack with the, what is it, 130 or 160? Nope, looks like we are going to go for the retreat. We only need to retreat with one energy, actually, because of the Beach Court. So, looks like we are going to discard the Psychic, and we are going to... So that's actually not bad. The Beach Court is coming in a lot more handy. But yeah, was fully intending to discard 2 energies, did not have to do that. We are going to see the Arceus attack will knock out the Giratina V, and we are going to see another couple energies potentially come down. Looks like just one Psychic energy, though, from deck, so really curious to see why it's just one energy. You could have put one on the Arceus. Maybe there just isn't that many energies left in deck. That would be very odd. You would have had to prize a ton, maybe have a bunch in hand, but you didn't attach one for turn, so not quite sure what's going on with just the one energy charge. Even if you didn't want to put a second energy on the Giratina, at least you could have put one on the Arceus V-Star on the bench that has no energy. The Radiant Gardevoir did come down on this last turn. That will reduce the damage you take by 20, so that is pretty good. So, unless this Giratina has some sort of way to boost 20 damage, it will not be one-shotting these Arceus V-Stars. So, since Giratina is no longer probably playing things along the lines of Choice Belt because we are in an EX format now, lots of V Pokemon are no longer being played. Well, the amount of V Pokemon overall are being lessened because they're being replaced with Pokemon EX in some decks. So Choice Belt is most likely not being played in very many decks. So the only way to one-shot this Arceus through the Radiant Gardevoir will be to use the V-Star power, which is just an auto KO. So if this player on the right is able to finally get the Mirage Gate turn off here, attach for a turn, and retreat into the Giratina, we will possibly be able to see a knockout. We do have 10 cards in the Lost Zone, so we don't even need an attach for turn. We just need one Mirage Gate. Oh, but looks like we're getting a Water Energy instead of a Grass. Maybe we already have a Grass in hand to just attach. But we can go for the V-Star power, take 2 prize cards, but then our opponent can just respond with a Giratina V-Star of their own and another energy to attach for turn. So we'll have to see if they have that or not. I am a little concerned since the Trinity Nova did not get that additional energy, if we even have the energy to devote to this Giratina here. But we are going to go for the V-Star power. We do knock out that Arceus, as I said. The Giratina comes up from this player, and we are going to see, is this going to be an attack here? Looks like we do have some sort of Giratina in hand. I'm not sure which one it is, but at the very least, we do have a Grass energy card. And we also have a Path to the Peak. You could always play that to make it so your opponent cannot retreat their Comphase, getting rid of that Beach Court there. Also, if you think about it, isn't it kind of funny that Giratina, the essentially god of hell, is fighting on in someone's backyard beach? And it's just a little funny that when you think about it that way. You literally have the god of the underworld versus actual god. And they're just beating each other up in someone's backyard. So there is the Raihan that is going to charge in energy to the Giratina. We're going to be able to search for any one card. We also had the grass in hand already. We might want to just attach that and we can go for the first attack, Lost Zoning 2 energy. We would not have to rely on our V-Star power. Also, we can't use our V-Star power because we don't have any cards in the Lost Zone anyway, so ignore me. So yeah, we do see a double turbo energy actually comes down for turn. Giratina can Lost Zone just that in order to get this attack off. The only thing is you would be a little bit concerned that you may get one shot by an opponent's Pokemon here, but I don't think that that would be the case in this situation because that Radiant Gardevoir is there and you're removing the only Giratina that is in play from the opponent. So they're likely only going to be able to get a Cramorant attack off or a Radiant Greninja's attack off, which would only do 70 to the active. So we are going to see an escape rope that will switch us into this next Comfey. We had our beach court replaced, so we might be looking for another one of those. We're going to Lost Zone that Drapion. That's not very useful in this matchup at all. We are not playing against Mew. That's all it's really good for. We are going to Heavy Ball, Hisuian Heavy Ball specifically, to get the Sableye. We are at enough cards in the Lost Zone to be able to attack with that. The best that we can really do this turn, though, is just knock out a Bibarel, or we can just start putting damage counters down what feels like a little bit randomly. I believe the Gardevoir has 130 HP, if I'm not mistaken, so that won't be able to be knocked out by the Sableye here, but that would be a good thing to get rid of as well. But the Bibarel really does help with the consistency of this Arceus deck. So yeah, we will just have to see exactly which direction we are even able to go here, but the player on the right is definitely on the back foot heavily here. Also, seeing both players are playing these Hollow Pokemon Go energies, they look really nice. I don't believe that we got Hollow energies in Pokemon Go set. Or at least they look hollow because of the way the camera is. Maybe they are just regular non-hollow energies, can't really tell. We are going to see a boss's orders here that will bring up the Gardevoir that has the highest retreat, no energy, and can't attack. We are going to knock out the Bibarel with the Sableye, so this player does know exactly what they need in order to come back here. They're just hoping that this Gardevoir here is not able to be moved. And if so, then you can just start hitting continuously with the Sableye and maybe take some knockouts just because you can't move the Gardevoir. But of course, we immediately see the escape rope here. We did not Lost Zone this double turbo energy on the previous turn. We just Lost Zoned a couple basic energy. So now because of that, we are able to be one energy away from being able to attack with this Arceus V-Star. I guess in hindsight, that was the more correct play because now we get a lot more value off of this Arceus. I always forget names here. Off of this Arceus than we would just off of the Giratina. We are going to see a Choice Belt come down as well. Very interesting to see that players are still playing that, as I just discussed. And we are going to play Professor's Research to draw a fresh hand of 7 after discarding the hand that we already have. Looks like we do have to get rid of another Grass energy in order to do that. Yeah, looks like there are no basic energies left in deck, so I would like to see something along the lines of an energy recycler in this deck to see if maybe we can get those back into the deck or not. There are quite a few in the discard pile at the very least. I believe Ordinary Rod did rotate. Yep, and we are going to go in with Trinity Nova here, just taking the knockout, not getting any energies, shuffling the deck, and taking one prize card, so we go down to one remaining. person on the right will now have to get a lot of mileage out of this Sableye and Greninja. We're going to have to attack with something this turn. We're going to have to see if we have maybe another boss's orders to bring up that Gardevoir so we can go for that Sableye play again. I think that's best case scenario for this player on the right. We are going to go for the Mirage Gate, one to the active Comfey and one to the Giratina. That way we will be able to retreat. I suppose we could always use Abyss Seeking. That would allow us to look further into our deck for maybe some outs. But again, that's not really aggressive enough to be able to just make a comeback in this game. At the very least, your opponent could always just hit for 180 and feel kind of confident with that. Yep, and we are going to see there is the boss's orders we were able to get here. We are going to see that Sableye come back up, and this is exactly the out that you have to play for in this situation. We are just loading 120 damage onto the Giratina. I personally would have gone for the Arceus, just because we know there's no more energies in deck. So the Arceus is the only card that is even able to attack at this point. And we do see the switch card and the knockout for the game. So the Arceus Giratina deck ends up taking it down. I do love Arceus Giratina, but it is a bit clunky at times. Maybe with rotation, the deck gets to pull itself back up and be able to be a little bit more of a contender. So I hope you guys enjoyed. As always, do not forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Feed that YouTube algorithm. Make sure this video gets seen by others as well. And we will see you guys next time with the next round of the Japan Champions League.